Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Amazing guests the world over with incredible insights. They've often been through a pretty significant personal transformational journey, and they're giving service to others. We've had healers of all different backgrounds and types from around the world. We've had a White House physician to the U.S. president, the youngest Delta Force operator ever to be admitted to Delta Force. International best-selling authors, a Super Soul Sunday guest, and many others. Please check out the website if you want the whole entire guest list from January of 2023 all the way to January of 2026. Yes, we're booked that far out. We have mind, body, spirit panels and also something called the APL Spotlight Series. It's a chance for when guests come back on, our favorite guests, we feature them. That show airs the day it tapes. All of our shows try to be interactive, which just means you can catch the scent of lit sage. I light that and you catch it through two screens, or I show you my light on my hands. You can do it at home. And sometimes we have guests on the panels do things jointly. So that could be listening to an angel, seeing light. We've even had some angels fly by. And if you check out the website or the channel, you'll see some of the angels flying by. So it's very interactive. It's very direct, almost kick me out of the way. Back to our guest today, coming to us from Florida. She's seasoned. She's been around. She's done a lot of shows, a lot of TV, a lot of books, and more. Psychotherapist Laurie Nadel. She's had also some other experiences, 9/11 related, Hurricane Sandy and our home in New Jersey. She's here to share some stories as well. I've had a chance to interact with her for probably about 5 or 6 years. I'm a big fan of hers. Laurie, great to see you again and great to have you on Angels, Positivity, and Love.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Michael. I'm so excited to see how your fan base is growing and how the angels are becoming more known and how more and more people are open to interacting with angels because it's not really part of our reductionist culture.
And it's really good to see you again. So, welcome back, and I'm just
Thank you.
happy to have you here. Can you share with us, perhaps, if you don't mind starting with a personal account? You have this amazing story related to 9/11. I won't say any more. I'll let you take over.
I was writing for the New York Times. I was covering water sports and the marine environment, and I had to file my story at midnight on Sunday. And as I finished writing about a surfing competition, I went to go from my office to the bedroom. It was one step up from the office room to the bedroom, and my daughter was asleep with a cat. And all of a sudden, I saw an angel standing next to the bed, and the angel put her wings, her right wing, over my daughter and cat. She said, "Whatever happens, I will keep you and your daughter safe." And I thought, oh, wow, I've been working too hard. And I said to the angel, you're not real, right? You're a figment of my imagination. And she smiled and she said, "No, I'm real." And she smiled, and the whole room filled up with this golden light. And then she dissolved. And then 2 days later, the planes hit the towers. And my daughter she was a teenager at the time. She was hysterical. She said, "Mommy, we have to leave the country." And I told her, "No, this angel came on Sunday night and said that whatever happened, we would be safe." And it really was kind of a guiding moment in my life because I became a volunteer responder down at Ground Zero and then spent several years doing programs I had a program for teenagers whose fathers were killed in the towers. I worked with first responders. I still get calls from people who every year at the anniversary, it brings up a lot of memories for people who were there or who lost somebody. So I was kind of guided from having that angel encounter into working directly to do what I could to help heal, is what I would call, it really is a collective wound, we call it a ketabasis or a soul wound that we've never really processed completely in this country. We put up another building and we went to war, and every year they ring a bell and they read some names. But I think that the spiritual implications of what happened go far deeper. And I often feel that that angel whom you helped me identify as Angel Muriel, and I see her, and she talks to me and I talk to her, and I ask her what to do. So it's been really amazing in my life. But what I remembered a couple of years, I think, after you and I spoke, was that when I was 8 years old, I was in the car with my brother, and he was five, and my parents, and we were driving upstate, and we were driving on the West Side Highway in Manhattan, and I looked up in the sky, and suddenly the sky opened up, and there were these two angels fighting. There was an angel that was white, I remember, an angel of light with lightning bolts, and there was a dark angel with like thunderclouds, and they were having this big fight in the sky. And I guess maybe I was talking to them, or maybe my face just was, showing that awe and shock. And I think my mom turned around and said, what's going on? And I started describing the angels up in the sky. And I remember my father turned bright red, and he looked completely aghast because he was an atheist. And he really thought that he thought, whenever I would explain or describe something that started happening again in my 20s, where I would have experiences with spirits or psychic experiences, he really thought I needed to be institutionalized. And he was really quite, afraid of that. But the place that I saw the angels over the sky was right over the river next to where eventually they built the World Trade Center. And I remembered that, I think, 2 years after you and I spoke the first time. So when I was 8 years old, I saw something going on at a higher level in the angelic realm that had to do with that geographic location. It was pretty amazing. No.
Well, I'm going to ask for any other encounters, experiences like that, plus your trauma work. You've done a lot of work in service for others since 9/11 and before that as well. But can we go back to your dwelling, your apartment, and just can you add any other like context to it so people can understand how something like that could go down? Could you just paint the picture a little more? Did you stay up later that night? Did it take a while to process? Were you able to process it, or were you just left with an amazing feeling afterwards?
Well, I was left with an amazing feeling. I knew I had had a direct visitation from an angel, and I had, as I said, I mean, I had that experience when I was younger. I had precognitive dreams when I was younger that were very scary because then they would come true. And 1990, this happened. I mean, before 9/11 was 2001, but in 1990, I wrote a book called Sixth Sense: Unlocking Your Ultimate Mind Power, which was really the first book. There was no New Age section of the bookstore. And it was the first book that talked about intuition as a natural ability that we all have. And it works whether you believe it or not. And you don't have to believe in anything spiritual or outside yourself in order to experience it and tap into it. It's almost like it's part of I call it part of the operating system that we all have. And as a result of studying and interviewing everybody from psychics to entertainers to astronauts, I got to speak with Edgar Mitchell, who was the astronaut who had a kind of spiritual experience in space and came down and started an institute called the Institute of Noetic Sciences to study consciousness. As a result of meeting all these amazing people and studying the theory and the science of intuition, I began to develop my own intuition, began to develop all on its own. And I actually studied at Lilydale, which is the spiritualist community, and became a medium. And I'm now starting to work directly with people who may want to contact somebody, a spirit or an angel on the other side. I do sessions, and I'm working specifically with animals using a combination of techniques so that I can do Reiki with an animal on another side of the planet, another side of the country, and I can receive messages from animals and spirit. And that's been very fulfilling and very exciting.
Oh, I love that.
To go back to 9/11, something had happened 2 weeks before the angels showed up. And that was, we had a possum that lived in our yard. And, possums come out at night. and they're nocturnal animals. And the Native Americans say that when a possum appears, it means expect the unexpected. But one afternoon, one morning, I looked out my window and there was a possum that was lying on its back that was right outside my window in the garden. And I thought, well, maybe he's playing possum, but didn't move at all. So I went out and I kind of, touched it with a stick, and the possum had died. So I called my daughter and I said, we really need to bury the possum, wrap him or her in a shroud and say some prayers. And she said, "Oh, mommy," she said, "you know what this means? It means expect the unexpected death." And that was 2 weeks before the angel showed up. So there were many spiritual signs. And people, I think, all over New York for a year before 9/11 were having precognitive dreams, reporting them to the therapist, lucid dreams, planes flying into towers, birds flying into towers, skyscrapers catching fire, people flying through the air, the image of the tower from the tarot. So when you have a mega event, it starts to show up in the field, whether you call it, the soul, the collective soul, or the collective psyche. Certainly in this country, it happened again. People had similar experiences before Hurricane Sandy, which was in 2012, where 1 million of us lost our homes. It happened before January 6th. There were a lot of people having dreams and premonitions and feelings that something was going to happen. And even before the pandemic, at the end of 2019, a lot of people were contacting me and saying, it feels like before 9/11. This is the reference that we have in the Northeast of the United States, is it feels like before 9/11, there was a collective shift in I guess you'd say, the collective soul of those of us who live, in this area. And even people who are not particularly aware of this will be able to recognize it and talk about it. So people feel it. And, you could say it's the angels telling us, get ready, because something big is going to happen.
I used to live in New York City for 20 years.
Mhm.
I was there for 9/11. I still remember at the time, at least in the last 15 years, I remembered which clothing I bought from the Gap store in the mall below one of the towers. My mom used to work in one of the towers
Oh,
previously, and a friend of mine, an Australian, lost his business, Windows on the World, that was just
oh,
getting renewed. But
mhm.
luckily he wasn't in the towers, but he knew a lot of that staff. And so on. So, and I luckily stepped off the bluff. When everyone was watching the buildings burn, I went in and I watched it on TV. That's how I saw the towers fall. So it was a completely different level, or different lower level of
Yeah,
shock when that happened. Seeing it on a TV versus actually seeing it, there
yeah.
is a difference. So I feel fortunate. Only a little bit jumpy every time a plane went by or a fire truck went by for about a decade afterwards.
Yeah. So you could see people in New York when an ambulance would go down the street. Even a couple of years later, everybody would freeze, like we were playing that game where they play music and suddenly they say freeze, and everyone on the street would just freeze, and we'd all look at each other and
Yep.
you
At Vegas,
know,
maybe Hard Rock, the pool. I still remember
yeah.
the engine sound changing on the jet, either it was taking off or landing at the airport. But either way, the engine screamed in a certain way. And I was like jumping just because that's the jumpiness you got from that experience. What else can you share with us about what have you had to let go of over the decades in terms of resistance to staying open, practicing kindness, compassion? How have you been able to grow along the way?
Well, I think what's happened to me primarily is that I've become um, more aware of how thin the veil is between, especially lately, but it's been getting thinner and thinner. The veil between the physical world and the spiritual world is now it's very, very permeable. And as I said, I've been doing more work as a medium. I've been communicating with animals that have crossed over, for people that I've never physically met. The ability to tap into, in Reiki, there's a symbol which represents the space between time and space. So the ability to access that space between time and space using a combination of this traditional healing technology from Japan and some of the techniques that I learned from remote viewers who were the people who practiced psychic espionage for the Pentagon. This was a story that I broke in my book, Sixth Sense. Nobody knew there was a secret psychic espionage program, but when it was declassified in 1996, then a lot of the veterans started teaching the public. And I was privileged to train with some of the veterans of that program. So I've been developing ways of connecting with also people who may be preparing for surgery or people who are having complicated medical situations where they'll say, can you send me Reiki? Can you do Reiki healing? And again, I use this symbol that takes me into the space between time and space, where there is an ability to connect with the energy body or soul of a person or an animal, and to actually, I don't do healing. I simply ask that Reiki, which is a force in the universe, it's a universal force like love, or a universal force like compassion. And it's just like the Reiki takes over. We just have to kind of invite it to be present for the person. And the person on the other side of the country, or the person who's animal. I did an interview on Coast to Coast AM, and I remember getting a request from someone in Montana whose horse hadn't left the barn in a month. And her name was Sweetheart, and I did a session with Sweetheart. And she said that she felt a little wobbly on her legs because she had some arthritis. And, I asked if she'd like to receive Reiki, because we always have to ask permission. And the animal always is the one that directs the session and says, yes or no. Sometimes a horse, especially, I've had horses say, no, I don't know who you are, please go away. And I have to respect whatever the horse wants. And Sweetheart was open to Reiki. And a couple of days later, I got an email from her person who said, I don't know what you did, but she got up and she's out in the field now and she's walking around, and she's much happier, and she lets me talk to her again. And so these really miracles, I would say, with animals, and healing miracles with people are really much more of the work that I'm offering now.
I love the Winnie the Pooh quote. Let's see. The Winnie the Pooh quote, everyone talks to animals, no one listens. That's the problem. And I would say
Yeah.
that's the opportunity, and the opportunity for growth for all of us, for everything.
Mm.
Can you take us back to the remote viewing program? Was it the Stargate program? We've had Paul Sugar on, who was briefly in that program before it was officially CIA or anything. He's been one of our most frequent guests. He's a 50-year mindfulness meditation teacher. He's been on stage with Deepak. He's taught at Omega. And his teachings are in 48 public school systems, including LA and Atlanta. But he's super fun, sweet. Billy Crystal Laugh just had him on a panel recently. So long story short, can you take us through a little bit of what you learned? Which instructors did you get a chance to access? And can you describe just a little bit of that to give some flavor for folks about remote viewing?
Well, remote viewing was originally developed so that the military, that there was a psychic named Ingo Swann who was passed, and Ingo Swann is the father of remote viewing, and he came up with that title because it was sufficiently bland and neutral, but it didn't have any connotations like psychic. But the military, the U.S. military, was curious about whether it would be possible to train people to be able to describe something that was happening in the Soviet Union, for example, before we had satellites, or to be able to locate. There was a NATO, there's an American Lieutenant General James Dozier, who was kidnapped by the Red September movement in the 1970s or early 80s. And it was the remote viewers who were able to get his geolocation, because there were no satellites at the time, and they were able to rescue him. So remote viewing is the technique of being able to pick up data in the form of, we call it kinesthetic data, through the palms of your hands. You are given a set of numbers, which is really just designed to kind of focus your subconscious or unconscious mind in a different direction than logical thought. And then you just start sketching. And whatever your first initial sketch is, it may be a squiggly line or a circle or like a tent, like an upside down V, or a box. There are certain archetypes, I guess, archetypal symbols that are called ideograms. And then work with a partner and you run your finger over the sketch. And the amazing thing, and this is what I bring to my Reiki sessions, is that when you run your finger over an ideogram, or when I run my finger over an image of an animal or an energy body, I get the sensations going through my hands. When you put your hands, you put your fingers over an ideogram, you'll pick up heat or cold or wet or stickiness or something that is, very flatness, warmth, sand, solidity. And then at a certain point, you start to get images and you'll start sketching. And then what part of the training is the person you're working with will take out an image that's in a sealed envelope, and you'll see how many data points you got correctly. And then you can enter it in one of my teachers, Lynn Buchanan, who is the author of the book, The Seventh Sense, had a database for students in which you could enter how many data points you got correctly, and then they would score your results, which was fascinating. I also studied with Dale Graff, who is one of the pioneers of the program with the Air Force, and have taken remote courses with Major Ed Dames and Paul Smith, who wrote the book Reading the Enemy's Mind. And so I had interviewed about 8 remote viewers and about 5 of the physicists who had worked with the initial program. And it was interesting, Michael, because I knew that they were lying to me in 1989, as I asked, is the program still working? Is there anybody I could interview? And they said, oh, no, they're not doing that anymore. They shut it down. And I thought, well, I know they're lying to me, but I'm not working for a large organization anymore. I'm an independent author, and I've got a young child at home, and they're telling me it's not in operation anymore. I'm just going to report what they told me because I don't want to disappear down a dark road. So I'll just let them tell their story. And sure enough, 5 years later, they declassified the program. And I went, wow, I knew they were lying to me. I just knew it. But I think it's still going, and they changed the name, and they say officially it's not still going. But when they have conferences, there are always some military and intelligence people who show up because it's fascinating because you are able to pick up data. One of the techniques that I learned from Lynn Buchanan involves expanding your peripheral senses. So you're able, it's kind of similar to what you see on a basketball court when you see that a player knows that if he throws the ball back, behind him, he knows that, somebody's going to be there to pick up or soccer players do that also, where you have 360-degree perception, but it's a sensory perception. So part of the training is to develop your 360-degree peripheral sensing apparatus so that you can tell who's behind you. And there was one day it was very hot. I remember it was August, and I had to go into the city for an emergency in Manhattan. And I was walking to the train station. I was thinking, God, it's so hot, it's sticky, and it's crowded, and I'm so bored. And what am I doing here? And I thought, let's try the technique. And so I went into that state, and I thought red, orange, and I just had a flash of color. And I turned around, and coming down the street behind me was somebody wearing a red, orange tunic. And I went, oh, that's interesting. And then I crossed the street and I tried it again. And I tried it 3 times. And the last time I was coming down this big escalator, and I thought, okay, so who's behind you? And I saw silver blue swirling stars. And I turned around, and coming right onto the escalator, at the top of the escalator, was a woman in a sari with swirling silver stars and blue silk. And I went, oh, this is really, and at that point, I got a little weirded out because, it was 3 out of 3. It was pretty amazing. But there's things that we're able to do that allow us to connect into these greater fields of knowing and to tap into this amazing field of soul connection with angels, really, and spirits who have crossed over, who are here to guide us. It's really magical, and it's always very exciting for me to be able to share this with someone. Before Hurricane Sandy, 6 months before Hurricane Sandy, I know I had shared this with you before. I had a dream around Memorial Day, and my father, who had been passed for many years, showed up in the dream, and he said, "You need water. You're going to have to buy extra water. You're going to need to get more water." So I went, "Okay, Dad," and I went to the supermarket and I bought a few gallons of water. And then around 4th of July, my favorite uncle, who was also a master Mason, so he knew all about a lot of the out of body and other transcendental techniques that are part of that tradition. Though he showed up in a dream and he said, "Your dad and I are upset because you're not taking this seriously enough. You don't have enough water. You have to go out and get more water." And I went, "Okay, thanks." And I went to the store and I bought a case of water. And my boyfriend at the time said, "What's with all the water?" I said, "Well, I've had 2 dreams. My father came and my uncle came. If they went to all that trouble to kind of find me from the other side, I'm going to pay attention." And then at Labor Day, so it was the end of the summer, my dad showed up again and he looked very stern. He was wearing his lab coat because he'd been a dentist. And he said, "You are not prepared for what's going to happen. You are going to have an emergency and you do not have enough water. You must get more water." So I went out and I had gallons. I had 13 gallons of water and cases of water, and they were up in the attic. And then when Hurricane Sandy came, the storm surge destroyed the sewage treatment plant on the island. And when the tide went out and the water receded, the water supply was contaminated. And FEMA, the Red Cross, nobody showed up for days. And I was the only one who had enough water and drinking water and bottled water to be able to share it with my neighbors. I was the only one on the block who had water because the angels in the form of my father and my uncle, who were both angelic figures to me, they had come and they had prepared me basically. So 6 months ahead of this disaster, they were starting to prepare me for what I needed to do so I could help other people.
In a second, I'm about to ask you about angels themselves, but I'm going to digress back to Joe McMoneagle. It's MCM,
Yes,
the Wondering
right.
Sean Ryan show.
That's
I think
right.
he teaches at Monroe Institute. I'm not,
Right.
I do this. There may be government agencies that love some of those institutes out there only because then you can find more candidates for whatever they like to do.
That's right.
So the point of this is, it is a very fun show for in-depth whatever. You get a lot of flavor when you listen to him talk. I think it's like a 6-hour show, and you do get a very good sense of remote viewing, that style. Okay, back to angels. I can tell you from 13 years or 14 years now, and this is everything I say is not my own. So I heard they come in all shapes, sizes, colors, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of purposes, but they're unconditional love, generally not here to interfere. So setting your intent's important. Can you keep going with all that and tell us about angels?
Well, I do feel again when I'm in that Reiki space that we know that we have Reiki angels. We know that we have in fact my Reiki angel with animals is my cat, who was a Reiki practitioner with me. And when I recently did a Reiki master training, we did a meditation to ask for our Reiki angel, and Bogart came, and he definitely guides my sessions with animals, especially with cats. So I think that, we can ask for angels all the time. I also feel a connection with Audrey Hepburn. As I said, I had interviewed her for United Airlines magazine, and she gave me this big basket of flowers where she was getting on a plane. I was like, I couldn't believe it. But she also was the only one I've ever interviewed who had actually read all of my books. And I think that the public information officer at the United Nations, because he arranged the interview, because she was the ambassador for UNICEF. She had grown up in a displaced persons camp as a child, and she remembered what it was like to be hungry. And so she devoted, the latter part of her career to helping raise funds for the UNICEF, the Children's Fund. And so they had sent her my books so she would know something about who I was, because I'm not, famous. And she had actually read my books, and we talked about sixth sense and intuition. And she said that she always trusted her intuition. And I just felt very blessed to have met her and to know that she is an angel on the other side. And sometimes I see her smiling at me, and I go like, "Oh, hi." That's very cool.
Uh, what we'll do is we'll segue into sage. I blow lit sage to the guests, and it doesn't matter where you are, what year it is. Time and space isn't quite what we think it is. At home, just set your intent like you would for a good cup of coffee, going for a walk, exercise, hugging a tree, enjoying the afternoon. And that could be just angels, universe, get me out of my head into my heart, help me catch sage. I'll put up 4 photos of angels after that, including Audrey, and we'll see what we get. Here's the sage, a lighter. Again, some people taste it because they're already wide open, and that's just as I start to light it. If anybody's really gung-ho, though, why settle for linear sage, which is wonderful, when you can also have flowers and ocean and maybe something else? Like, what are you willing to allow for daily? And that's the rub for all of us. Forget all the woo-woo-woo angels and sage. What are you allowing for more daily? Allow for more love, share more love, show love always. Good luck with that. Thinking always gets in there. Here's the sage. And from Texas to Florida, Laurie, are you catching a little bit of sage?
Yeah, I smell the sage. Yeah.
Yay.
And
And if you'll close your eyes and just ask for something extra, it could be flowers, beach smell, waves rolling around. What are you getting?
I'm hearing waves, yeah, from
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think we've done it that way before, so I
No.
must have blurted that out. And
Mm,
I try to not shut down my psychic stuff, but I
mm,
feel like everyone should be doing their own listening, feeling, seeing, and talking out loud. If I didn't have to talk on this show, I would sign the contract tomorrow, but that's not the way
mm,
shows roll.
mm,
And people can meet Mayor Baba. I'll add that since he went quiet for so long.
mm,
Okay, here's Joy, an angel who's fun, very cosmic, a lot of love. Catch anything you want with the nose, but
mhm,
catch a lot of love around you if you want to get whooshed or swirled. But then what does she have as a reminder for us all?
mhm. Well, are you asking me?
Yeah, you'll do our listening for us. If you don't mind playing psychic medium right now, what's Joy have as a reminder for us all to walk a smoother path in life?
She's saying rest. Sometimes we just need to rest, and it's okay. I tend to give myself a hard time about that. Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Charlotte, another angel who's a little bit older, teacher, soft-spoken, fun.
Yeah.
And what are you getting from Charlotte for all of us?
She's saying love. She's saying, just hang out and just love who you are. Thanksgiving is coming as we're taping the show. And sometimes I ask people, what is it about you that you're thankful for? So she's kind of saying, love, appreciate yourself, appreciate the people you care about, and enjoy that.
Mm. And I have a third angel before we do Audrey Hepburn. This one's very oceany, light waves of energy and water. We've had a bunch of guests on the show. Episode 110, Dr. Karen Wyatt, who that's her guardian angel. And there's many more stories where people have met her already. But there's men, Lakota Sioux word for water. And what are you getting from men?
Well, tell you, the ocean has spoken to me, and I've studied in Brazil. So I was initiated as a daughter of the sea, and when I hear from the mother of the sea, she says, you haven't been listening to me, you haven't been paying attention, and you haven't been respectful, and she's angry. And I felt that very strongly. As the sea took my home, that was my little beautiful beach cottage. And I just felt like, well, we haven't listened. And I studied with the shamans in the 1990s, and including my teacher in Brazil. And whether they were in the jungle or whether they were on the coast, the spirits always had the same message, which is, you people in the industrialized North, you've stopped listening to nature, but all of nature speaks. And if you don't listen, somebody said you can't fool Mother Nature, you can't cheat Father Time, and if you don't listen to nature, voice is going to get louder and louder. And when I was just looking at the picture of Min, she was looking very stern, and it's like, you guys really aren't paying enough attention, and you really need to respect what we need here in the ocean.
Well, we're gonna jump to the jungles of Latin America in a second because I'm getting a flashback from that time we talked. It was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. But we're doing Audrey Hepburn first. This
Okay.
is a photograph, and we know photographs can't move. But if there are really no limits in life, why not? And that really is a great attitude to have in each moment because each moment's the opportunity. So with Audrey, she's just fantastic at moving her eyebrow, a smile, a wink, a shoulder waggle, catch an uninvented perfume from Paris. If there are no limits, let angels worry about the details. Just tell her and make it nice. Get any answers, get a hug, get a whoosh down the back. And if you want to go crazy, feel an elegant hand on the shoulder, small of your back, and get some light through you. You've met, and you've already done this a bunch of times with me, but have her kick it into gear and catch a beautiful fragrance. Again, it could be Milan, it could be Paris.
Yeah, she's definitely Chanel. She was Chanel all the way. She was wearing a Chanel suit.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then what does she have as a reminder? Because she's like Grace, half sparkle in the moment, and she's so wonderful.
Well, she has a gracious elegance to her. And as I've gotten older, I've really come to appreciate that gracious elegance that a lot of European women have. They don't age, and they don't age the way a lot of the way we do in America. They just seem to get more elegant as they get older and more gracious as they get older. So she's kind of my model of how I want to continue to become.
And I'm going to give you one 5-second bonus out of the blue. This is what I'm hearing. If you could close your eyes, but have her come in and maybe put two hands, one hand on each shoulder, but do it in a way that makes you smile. Some way she's coming in to interact with you. It's a lot of grace coming in, but you'll know you're done when you either yawn or smile. And we didn't do it. I didn't do it. That's an angel yawn.
Yes,
No need to cover it
yes,
up.
there we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm going to put Dull Knife up for some sort of point. You had an interaction with Dull Knife. I can't remember the details exactly. You might have gone on a trip, but it played out for time. And you had asked to meet, if you don't mind me saying this out loud, you have had some of your teachers, shamanic, have passed over, others are alive, but you got to see them, if I remember. This is years ago, and it only
Yeah,
came to me just now.
yeah,
You got to
yeah.
see them all in a clearing, and that was kind of like not just like with us that all was a-okay, but you got a lot out of it. Can you get a reminder from Dull Knife and plus your other figures? Have anybody come in you wish, but get a reminder for us all that's beyond just the amount that you just told us about the ocean and paying attention more for mankind. There's one more reminder for us all.
Well, again, the shamanic teachings right now, they're very solemn. There's a lot of concern about the waste of the environment. And it's kind of like he saying, my daughter, you must listen. That seems to be the message for today. It's like, my daughter, you must listen.
I love
And
it.
the earth speaks to us all the time. The trees speak to us, and we tear them down and we put up buildings and we pave the earth over with concrete. And I'm not denying that progress is important, but at the same time, the earth has a soul and it has a heart, and we just kind of disrespect and ignore that at our own peril, because now we're looking at wildfires in the Northeast, and California no longer has a wildfire season. The fires are raging all year round. We have tornadoes and floods and hurricanes that are getting worse every year. And I mean, the extremes of nature are partly things that are out of our control, but partly things that we have called into being by not listening to what the forces of nature and what the shamanic spirits have been trying to tell us for a very long time.
I have one more figure from you for you that's a little more than like a spirit animal. It's jaguar, and I'm going to go off on a tangent. And for 1 second, we have a guest. It'll be for folks if they want to look back at January 12th, I believe, 2025. Dr. Jonathan Ellerby. He was this director of spirituality at Canyon Ranch. He's got a bunch of books out through Simon and Schuster, I think, Hay House and stuff like that. But he spent 30 years traveling 40 countries, or the other way around. And he had an Amazon jungle story that is just so beautiful, involving jaguar and energy, spirit form, and three medicine men. People can tune into episode, whatever episode that is in January, I think January 12th of 2025, but you will love that. He tells stories so well. We're having him back on a third time, and chock full of fun. Here's Jaguar for you. I have three different photographs. If you could put both hands up and take it through your hands one way, feel it around your body and your field another. And if anybody wants to breathe more at home, you'll get more interaction this way. And if you do close your eyes, you can get a vision. You can also hear words. And at the end of it all, if you don't mind doing a takeaway for all of us as a reminder. And if people want to do extra, they can have a ball of light come in. That's the jaguar. Or you can see the form of the jaguar. It's up to you.
The jaguar says, I come in flashes, when you have these flashes of intuition, or a flash that you have to move very quickly and get out of the way, or do something quickly, or pick up the phone and call somebody, or send a message out very quickly. So jaguar said, I come in a flash.
There's going to be one last interactive thing. I'll show my light. You don't have to show yours. You'll just see aura light color. But lately in 2025, while we're taping this, 2024, we've had guests ask for extra. So it's not my light anymore. You see that. But you asked for the universe angels, your favorite figures, to come in and do something extra. People have been getting flowers, phoenixes, seeing geometric, whatever, or balls of light, just something extra. It's pretty, it's fun. It's pretty fun. I forgot to do this before the show, so this isn't a big deal. I'll tell a dad joke to help everybody lighten up. I'm going to tell the Bert and Ernie Sesame Street one. You don't have to remember these characters at all, but Bert offers Ernie ice cream. What's Ernie say? Sure, Bert. If you can laugh or smile, you know you're in your heart. That's all. So people can see gold, green, yellow, white, whatever color it is. Be in your heart. I'll do Yoda's voice just to make people laugh a little extra. Do not. There is no try. And just see a little filament of light. What color do you see between my fingers?
Blue indigo.
Yay. And now, if you don't mind, ask all your loving angels. You got a big crew, your cheerleaders, passed over loved ones. Ask them to do something extra. People have gotten, again, flowers, other stuff. What are you getting for some extra light or effects?
A little bit of like gold, kind of sparkles.
Yay. Perfect. Had to do something extra. Look, we try to make the show a little different than the typical show out there. My argument is you're flowing energy all the time. So you're a flower or a flower. And if you don't use it, that's okay. That's thinking. We all do rinse and repeat for the rat race up here. But anytime you want to let go more, you can walk a smoother path, have more fun, and then get going asking the universe to get in there and show you more. Laurie, for wrapping up the show, you've done a million of these interviews. What are like three big lessons you've learned that apply to us all for just living more, being in the heart more, taking a little bit more chance, or listening to your heart more, trusting your instincts? You've written the books and you've been doing the work forever, helping others. What are your three big takeaways for us all?
Well, the first one is something that I've been trying to learn myself, which is like the angels have been saying today. It's important to kind of stop the movement, and spend more time not trying to go out and do a ton of activities in the outer world. It's okay to hit the pause button and along in that same vein, change the channel. I would say that number two. A lot of people call me and they're hysterical about politics and about the election. And it's really important to change the channel. You don't have to keep watching, the fear channel or the news channel for that matter. Watch something that gives you a sense of calm and peace. And then the third thing, which is a lot of the work that I do with people who have long COVID, a lot of people who've been sick now for 4 years, is that when things happen in life, and you're not able to enjoy as many of the activities or any of the activities that you used to be able to do, it's an opportunity to explore your inner world. And I would say that a lot of the, fascinating work with angels and, working with Reiki and working with, whether they're physical beings or entities or spirits who are no longer physically with us, is that's all part of exploring the inner world and the power of what we're able to see and hear and feel when we're not so distracted with the, what do you say, accoutrements or activities of, Western civilization. So spend some time hanging out in your inner world. And Michael, I do have a YouTube channel, which is free. It's called Dr. Laurie Nadel's Meditation Journeys. And we've got some pretty cool journeys so that you can begin to enjoy spending time in your inner world. And there's one in particular that I love, which is called Dolphin Mind, that uses binaural beats. So you can slow down your brain waves to 8 hertz, which is the universal frequency, universal healing frequency. And it's also the frequency of dolphins' brain waves. So in this meditation, which has music and binaural beats, you look at the video of dolphins, and my voice helps you to slow down your brain waves so you can call in a dolphin power animal or spirit animal and hang out, have a conversation, and have that dolphin be part of your angel community whenever you want.
Oh, it's wild that you said that. And yes, people should check out your YouTube channel
Yeah.
and especially that meditation. But dolphin consciousness sort of has been one of those things out of 13 years of doing this, or 14. It just kind of came in, and I had Roberta Goodman on. I'm having her on 3 times. I think
Yeah.
you can find at least 2 shows out by now with her that are fun stuff. That she was a researcher at one point, or, working in the tank with dolphins that are more captive. One took her around in the tank in a circle where she wasn't getting the water resistance. She has no way to explain this. She didn't get any water resistance, as if a bubble or force field shield was there. And to
Mhm.
this day, she doesn't have a way to explain it. But I'm going to put a photo up for a dolphin. I'm going to add my last 2 cents. Then you're going to still close out the show with something short. But I'm going to just remind people that they can be happy now, or you can be happy now. And this is Angels saying it. You can be happy now in this very moment without a single reason. And there's a rub in there because most of us will be like,
Yeah.
but that is an amazing statement. And then find out where you're doing your resistance, and you might be able to let it go. Here's a dolphin representing dolphin consciousness. If you don't mind going wild and crazy, you don't have to throw your hair back. But here's dolphin consciousness. Catch something extra. Who knew we were going to do this?
Mhm.
And just say "got it" when you're tuned in. And then if you,
Oh, I got it. I
yeah,
got it. Yeah.
what are you getting for all of us from the
She
dolphin world?
says, she says, smile with your heart. Smile with your heart. Yeah.
I love it. And we'll leave that as the final. I love it. Smile with your heart. Laurie Nadel from Florida, you're incredible. Hopefully, we'll have you back on the show. And thank
Thank
you for
you.
being an amazing guest today.
Thank you. I love that. And thank you so much. This was great. So much fun. Very uplifting. You do
And
amazing
every time
work.
you smile, you're reminding me of Scarlett Johansson. So thank you
Oh,
for your lovely smile. Thank
all
you for
right.
being on the show.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.